My name's Steve Kaye. I'm the R&D manager in Anglian Water, and I've been involved in various projects linked with flooding. And I mean, flooding to Anglian Water is driving us towards, I suppose, more proactive management of networks and sewers. One area that we're looking at and keen to develop is how we link the management of sewers with weather, with Met Office data. So anybody who's got any knowledge or expertise in that, I'm keen to talk to you after the session. I suppose the other area that we're keen on promoting is SUDS, and SUDS solutions are really new skills and new technologies to us, and we need to really learn how to manage those, and any new sites developments that we're involved in, we seriously look at SUDS solutions moving forward. The third area really is we've got thousands of kilometres of sewers in our asset base, and one of the main causes of flooding is blockages in sewers. And what I'd like to talk about today is how we've effectively managed fat soils and greases, which is fog, so it's not the sort of steamy water vapour stuff. It's actually fat soils and greases that comes from domestic properties and industry. So what, as a means of introduction, can you hear me okay? Just a bit of background about the company. Anglian Water is the largest geographic water company, and we have over 5 million customers, and we've actually got 35,881 kilometres of sewers, which is a huge length to look after. We have 14,500 blockages a year, and 20% are actually related to fat soils and greases getting in there and blocking up the sewers. So we spend a lot of money, we spend millions of pounds a year trying to get rid of these by jetting and other, if you like, maintenance type regimes. So this is really a story on how we've changed that model and that approach. So it actually costs us around £5 million a year. And if you think on Christmas Day, we all cook turkeys, and when you make your gravy, you pour the fat off the top, and it's very tempting. It's very tempting to pour it into the sink and down the drain. And actually, if you look at the stats at the bottom, in Anglian Water, we pour enough fat into our sewers from domestic properties to fill 12 petrol tankers. If we could get it into 12 petrol tankers at the start of the process, that might be quite a useful stage in producing fuel. But we don't do that, so we're learning, and hopefully next year we'll have a much smaller number. If you actually look at the proportion of fat soils and greases that goes into the sewer, there's only 30% of it comes from domestic properties, which is quite amazing really when you think we've got over 5 million customers. But most of it comes from commercial businesses, from large factories, from supermarkets, and a lot of that is from small traders like Chinese restaurants and takeaways and fish and chip shops, and there are many of these activities going on in certain hotspots. It's very difficult to manage. So if you actually look at what happens to fog, it can be collected in a grease trap, it can end up in the drain, you can collect it for recycling, and some of it's eaten. The purple boxes on this diagram, apologise if you can't read it at the back, but it's really the consequences and the impact on the utility company. Things like blockages, flooding. Lots of our flooding is caused by blockages in the sewers, and that could be flooding people's houses or flooding from sewer overflows or drains or wherever the pinch point is in the system, really. So there are many people involved in the management or handling of fats, oils and greases, and we sort of looked at this and thought, well, who's actually the stakeholders in terms of the problem? The Environment Agency, we got them involved. We wanted their support in our campaign. We also went to fuel producers, biodiesel producers, because fats, oils and greases, if you can capture it, it's very good raw material for making biofuel. Obviously work with developers, so any new sites that are set up, we can put the appropriate grease and fat separation systems in. And we want to get close to food traders, supermarkets, etc. So rather than going down the, if you like, legislative stick approach, our approach has been very much how do we influence traders, how do we influence them not to put fats, oils and greases into the sewers. One of the problems we've had historically is actually identifying where specific fats, oils and greases problems are in the region. And over the past 5 years we've spent a lot of time CCTV camera in sewers and collecting data. We're starting to build this picture of where the hotspots are. So the strategy is, let's find out where the biggest costs are, and it's typically an 80-20. So 80% of that £5 million is typically in 20% of the sites. And we're getting a better picture on that. These are the kind of issues that fats, oils and grease causes in the networks. Internal property flooding, external flooding, sewage pumping stations flood. There's then all the cleaning costs, and ultimately the adverse PR and poor reputation that Anglian Water could get from these kinds of incidents. So, like any big company, we like to set up steering groups, and we set up a fats, oils and greases steering group to try and get a better understanding and benchmark ourselves against other water companies. And we also joined the what's called the Sewer Network Abuse Prevention Group, which is a national group to try and share best practice. And we also become aware of any other potential blockage projects that are on the horizon, things like the in-sink food waste disposers. So, macerators, if people put macerators in their kitchens, potentially that could end up as a huge amount of organic waste going into the sewers. One hand you could say, well, that could be a good thing because you can collect all your biodegradable waste and digest it and make electricity. The problem is that the sewers we've got haven't actually been designed to convey that material. So it's quite a sensitive, delicate balance. And I think in some applications, maybe a new block of flats where it's difficult to collect organic waste, it might work. But in many instances, it could give us more problems. So we need to be careful with that one. So our campaign really has been very much working with local environmental health officers, operational managers, local environment agencies, and actually going out as a very sort of positive, green, sustainable campaign and talking collectively to traders, demonstrating what the problems of fats, oils and greases are, and really giving them a framework to separate the fog at the source. And then we've moved towards working with local biodiesel producers. So fog is actually collected and converted to biodiesel. But generally, we've had some real success by this approach. We joined up with some of our friends, South West Water, Thames, United Utilities in Yorkshire, and we did this collaborative project on fats, oils and greases, which had 4 aspects to it. One was, what are the legal, what's the legislation that's going to impact, things like Section 111 and what's coming in the future. What are the sociological impacts? How can we motivate people not to put fog down the sewers? At the bottom, what biological processes are available to remove fats, oil, greases once they're in the sewers? And we did a lot of research on this in looking at enzymic processes to remove and clean sewers out. And then on the left, if the fats, oils and grease actually ends up at the sewage treatment works, it can cost us lots of time and effort. So what engineering and operational solutions can we develop as well? So we did this nationally, and there is a good report now where we've got sound guidance on how to prevent issues in all these areas. So in terms of our achievements managing fats, oils and greases, we've had a number of sites where we've trialled these dosing systems. We've had a particular success in Chelmsford in Essex, where we had a road in the middle of the town where there was flooding events and odour, and we got lots of bad publicity from that. But through this approach, working with the local environmental health officers, local EA, we managed to convince all the traders in that area to adopt this approach, and we ended up converting a lot of the useful material into biofuel. So we promoted it on TV and through the local press, etc. So this is really just the original diagram, and the pink blobs are some of the areas that we feel we've progressed. Fat collected for recycling, biodiesel manufacturer, and on the domestic side, we encourage people not to put their turkey fat down the drains, but to use pots, and as a water company, we can provide mechanisms for the public to do that. Okay, I think I've already covered that. So just to sort of finish, really this is an approach that's based on enthusiasm and personalities, and it really has been a partnership between the local councils and environmental health officers, the operational managers and local traders. And we feel that the Section 111 of the Water Act, Industry Act, it's quite ineffective because of the number of properties you have to monitor, and there's no specific levels of discharge like you can do with large industrial traders. So we felt that this more proactive approach was a better option. And there are a lack of financial incentives for commercial traders, things like waste management, the records of how you manage your waste, and work with reputable biofuel companies, and even the oil collection companies. We feel that if there was a more rigorous approach to becoming established in that area, we could get a better approach. And there's lots of people going around selling these bio-augmentation products. I get several visits every week, and I must admit that the thought of year on year adding chemicals into our sewers that cost high OPEX is a last resort, really, and not many of these products seem to work very well. So if you have any samples of products that do work well, please come and talk to me. But as I say, this is really a last resort. So in terms of environmental benefits and this approach, we've reduced the risk of odours in our region. Number of customer complaints has reduced, and ultimately the amount of flooding events in these hotspots has started to reduce significantly. Increased incentives for restaurants and takeaways, so we've got much closer to our community, and there's been a high level of success in terms of separating the source at the waste at the source. Okay, so we can't rely on enthusiasm alone. We'd like to see tighter legislation coming in on commercial traders. It does need a skilled resource within your water company. You need people who can communicate well, who can collaborate, who can work with environmental health officers and actually influence people to make this change. Ultimately, it'll help reduce our carbon footprint, and potentially it could save the industry tens of millions a year if we can sort of roll out this approach nationally. So one of the reasons I'm here today is just to promote the success of this. Ultimately it will impact on flooding, but there's a huge carbon footprint reduction for the industry and a significant cost. Thank you.